This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Good morning and welcome to The Weekly. I'm Justin Warmoth, and this morning we're joined by Dr. Jim Clark.
Good morning.
UCF history professor, News 6 political analyst. Good morning to you, sir, as we count down until the midterm election just around the corner. Let's start with the governor's race and the impacts that this storm, Hurricane Ian, has had on the governor's race and really the entire state, dealing with something that, and they will continue to deal with something throughout the midterm in November.
Yeah, the October surprise
Right.
has turned out to be Hurricane Ian, just like Hurricane Michael was 4 years ago, almost exactly the same time, early October, and it gave Rick Scott a tremendous boost. Just as we've seen with Ian, you could not turn on your television without seeing Governor Scott. Bill Nelson faded.
Yeah.
And the same thing has happened this year, where Governor DeSantis has been everywhere, and Charlie Crist has seemed to almost disappear.
Right, and not to mention the impact that the storm had and just widespread destruction in Southwest Florida. Those folks have to vote. I mean, or they don't have to vote, but they would like to vote, but they simply have other things going on. They don't have a place to live. Maybe they did mail-in ballots, what have you. It is a difficult situation for those folks, and I know that that's a red pocket for the governor, and he would like to do what he can to make sure that those folks down there can vote.
Yeah, if you don't have a house anymore,
Right.
It's tough to get a mail-in ballot.
Yeah.
Not only that, but hundreds of what would have been polling places are gone now. So surprisingly, the election supervisor had seen these possibilities and had said, why don't we pass a law to set up super voting sites where everybody can come together and vote? Ron DeSantis and the legislature said no. So now the question is, do they in effect break state law and allow some kind of super voting centers? Because Governor DeSantis wants those people to vote because they are overwhelmingly Republican.
So between the hurricane and the governor's messaging being broadcast all over the state, he also has a ton of ad dollars, campaign finances, and way more than Charlie Crist does. And those are also running simultaneously. You're seeing the polling sort of trend in that direction. Is this even more of an uphill battle now for Charlie Crist?
Yeah, it's a mountain that he is facing, Justin. The problem is that people who are on the short end of the poll tend to dismiss it and say, oh, polling isn't important. It's important in money because the Democrats have X amount of dollars to spend. Do they spend it in Florida, where Charlie Crist is way behind? Or do they spend it in Pennsylvania, where they can pick up a Senate seat, or Ohio, where they can pick up a Senate seat? So Charlie Crist is being overlooked by the national Democrats, by the state Democrats, and is not going to see his situation improve in the next 4 weeks.
Do you feel that's also the case with Val Demings now and running for Senate against Marco Rubio? Is she in the same boat because they're on the same ticket?
Yeah, I think that she is in a better position. The polls show her doing better. The problem is the Democratic ticket is probably the weakest in history. You have Charlie Crist, who has not won a statewide race in 16 years, lost his last two statewide races. You have an agriculture commissioner candidate who has become a punching bag for Democrats because of her past homophobic statements and some strange things she's done. The Attorney General candidate, who is our own former local state attorney here in Orange and Osceola counties, is weak on gun control, on death penalty. So they're facing an Armageddon here.
It's tough. It's certainly tough. Rubio's messaging, as you've watched his attack ads on Val Demings, it's not surprising. I think that's what the Republicans do. That's the mix. That's the recipe that they send out. when it comes to how she votes in Congress and defund the police, even though she was a former police chief. I don't think she necessarily believes that and has said that and has proven that she does not believe that. But nevertheless, that messaging from the Republicans is something that they have probably shipped out all across the country, is this is the recipe to win. And is that it shouldn't be that shocking to see some of the attack ads.
No, and what is strange is that Val Demings is running not as a member of Congress, but as Chief Val Demings.
Because she knows that she has to know that is such an important topic on the minds of a lot of folks.
Yeah. The question is, will that help her with progressives?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a mixed bag, but she's running close. And as we have seen in so many elections, if you can keep it close, you have a chance.
Sure.
But it's an uphill battle for her.
Last midterms, everything was razor thin. 2 recounts, and even the agriculture commissioner race was also really close. Didn't have to go to a recount, but nevertheless, they were all razor thin. 2022, 4 years later, are we expecting a blowout by Florida standards?
Yeah, I think clearly we are. And you're seeing it in the people running for office. 4 years ago, you had this lineup, the Miami Beach mayor.
Yeah.
You had Gwen Graham, the congresswoman from North Florida. You had Gillum. You had all these people who saw a chance for victory. This year, those people were not lining up to run, and so they gave the nomination to Charlie Crist, who had lost 2 statewide races before. So the Democratic Party, after this is over, will probably elect another new chair, something they seem to do every couple of years, and try to rebuild. But they have a huge task. They're there's no bench in the Democratic Party.
Well, they've also are now trailing Republicans in total voter registration as well. There are more registered Republicans in the state of Florida than Democrats. First time that's happened in, I don't know, ever. I mean,
yeah, and not only that, but as we have learned that they tend to underpoll Hispanic voters in South Florida, so it may even be worse for Charlie Crist. To show you how bad it is, the latest polls have him running behind in Orange County, which is a solidly Democratic county.
Wow. I mean, we have to factor in, primaries are over, so now everyone gets to vote in PA, independent voters now being able to have their voices heard. And so they tend to tip the scales one way or the other in the state of Florida, certainly with how evenly split the registered Republicans and registered Democrats are. But I think we saw it in 2020 with former President Trump against Joe Biden, handedly getting a W in the state of Florida for former President Trump. Now, it didn't matter nevertheless. Elsewhere across the country, Joe Biden did well. But you saw the makeup and maybe you saw the writing on the wall for what could be coming in the next few years. And here we are.
Exactly. You and I are still wondering where those 300,000 votes came from that added to Trump's margin in South Florida. That nobody knew were coming, that the Democrats were counting on the Hispanic voters, and yet they turned out for Trump.
Well, we have to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the balance of power, some local congressional races, as well as we continue to give you a preview of the 2022 midterm election. We'll be right back.
This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Welcome back to The Weekly. I'm Justin Warmoth. This morning, Dr. Jim Clark, UCF history professor and News 6 political analyst, is joining us as we give you a little preview of what's to come. Mail-in ballots can be sent. They're already being sent out. I got mine. And a lot of folks will start voting now, or they might have already cast their ballot. But as we look at the local congressional races and the balance of power in Washington, there are a few Republican seats that are open. Republicans are hoping to flip a few of these seats, and I think one in particular is District 7, which Stephanie Murphy retired, and now with the redistricting and the new lines, it leans Republican.
Yeah, it's a scary scenario for the Democrats The Republicans only need maybe 10 seats
Right.
to take control of the House of Representatives, and they can pick up 4 of them right here in Florida. So it's going to be fascinating. They have gerrymandered the state, as you know, along guidelines proposed by the governor, and he got exactly what he wanted. And so it's going to be fascinating to see if they can pick up all 4 of those seats. And frankly, it looks like they can.
Right now, 220 Democrats, 212 Republicans. I think it's just 6 seats, to be honest with you. 28 districts now, though, in the state of Florida, as we have passed New York.
Right.
So we are the 3rd largest delegation, state of Florida. Let's talk about District 7 in that race between Karen Green, she's the Democrat, and Corey Mills, the Republican, who just picked up a Trump endorsement, which likely all but puts him into Congress now as we look at the makeup of that. Anything stand out to you about that race? Does Karen Green have a shot here?
I don't think so. And I'm not even sure it's competitive, simply because they have fixed it so the district is overwhelmingly Republican. You cannot overcome certain numbers. For example, in the district where Frost is running, the district is 69% Democratic.
Right.
So
that's District 10, yeah.
You've got to get every Republican vote, and then you've got to get, 15% of the Democrats to vote for you. That's the same thing in 7.
Right. That's why you saw, folks at home, the ad spending in the primaries, because really the way that these districts have been made up, there are very few toss-ups out there. Toss-ups meaning 50-50, could go either way, doesn't lean a certain way, and those just don't exist. But they might exist on the state level, as we've seen Jason Broder being challenged, and really his back's against the wall. At least it seems as we've watched his ads, the amount of money that he's spending on these ads and the attack ads against his opponent.
Yeah, exactly. This was considered to be a toss-up district. As you know, he has faced so many problems. His party had a ghost candidate the last time he ran. His number 2 person in the Chamber of Commerce in Seminole County has been convicted of a crime. So all kinds of issues. And yet the Democratic ticket statewide is so weak that it's going to be an uphill battle for his challenger.
I want to talk about the balance of power. Senate obviously is 50-50, with the vice president breaking that tie, generally speaking. As we've mentioned, there are a number of states where money is being poured in to flip it red or blue, or keep it blue, so to speak. And that's the same. What do we expect to happen? Do we expect maybe the Republicans to take the House and perhaps Democrats keep control of the Senate? And what would that mean for President Biden moving forward over the next 2 years?
Yeah, it's good news and bad news. A lot of people like it when there's a split, because nothing radical or either left or right gets done.
I know the stock market likes it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The stock market loves that. For President Biden, though, it would give the Republicans in the House a chance to call hearings on things like Hunter Biden, going back to a whole slew of things. You'll remember when they held the House, all those Benghazi hearings that went on and on and on.
So perhaps they would dismantle the January 6th committee.
Yes, they would do that day one.
Wow. And
that would be history. In fact, they might even reconstitute it to show that there was no problem.
Perhaps.
It's going to be constant blows for President Biden, and he'll not be able to get anything in his agenda passed.
But the party out of power generally, historically, picks up, flips it in a midterm, halfway through a president's term, right? I mean, just historically speaking, that tends to happen.
Yeah, throughout our history, the party out of the presidential office gains seats in the Senate and the House. But the good news for Biden is that often they gain seats. We saw it in 1994 with Clinton. We saw it with Obama through his midterm. And then the incumbent president came back and won. So, this is not a harbinger for what happens 2 years from now.
What would be a best case scenario? What would President Biden, what would he consider a win when it's all said and done in the midterm election? Well,
obviously, if he can hold the House, but that is with 30 Democratic retirements, that seems like a dream. I think if he can gain in the Senate, which would be unusual, I think he can claim some sort of a mandate, some sort of a victory here.
You mentioned Pennsylvania. That's one that certainly has a lot of money pouring in, a lot of eyes on it. Georgia, Raphael Warnock, Democrats would, obviously like to keep that spot, but he is, he won in a special election, if I'm not mistaken, as did Mark Kelly in Arizona. So these special election candidates now have to rerun after 2 years, and you're seeing those in two states that were huge states for President Biden in 2020, for him winning Georgia and Arizona, and those are the ones that will likely dictate whether the Senate stays where it is or maybe is now Republican controlled.
Yeah, those are going to be important. Kelly seems to be holding a comfortable lead in Arizona, but again, the question is who votes out there. The race for governor is extremely close, and the question is who's going to turn out, and that's going to be the key. The same thing in Georgia. Governor Kemp, the Republican, has a consistent 4, 5, 6 point lead over his opponent, and who turns out, and we won't know until that night.
Yeah. Quickly, we haven't heard much about the 2024 election. What's your take on it in 10, 15 seconds?
Yeah. I think no matter what happens, Governor DeSantis is going to run. Remember, 4 years later, he's going to be out of office. He's not going to be able to raise the money. He's not going to be able to get the media attention. So no matter what President Trump does, this is his time.
All right. Dr. Clark, we appreciate the insight as always. And of course, you can find more information on the election, sample ballots, and polling locations, everything election related on our website, clickorlando.com. For Jim Clark, I'm Justin Warmoth. Hope you have a great Sunday.